Now, what happened in the Wolf Creek series with this mining camp? Now, was that also in the television version, or was that only in the movie? The mining camp, where he had the underground caverns and all that?
In the second part of the second season.
In the second season, okay. So they did do that.
They're escaped out there, and they're all just trying to escape him. And they come across, they think it's going to be shelter. Like, they come across, like we can get a phone. No, actually, they go into it, and it's like set up prequel. Like, he goes into the place. There's actually a guy there who like monitors the place. He goes in and he kills that guy in the series.
Okay,
this is like how he gets to, I guess, the mining camp or whatever. He said, the guy at the mining camp said there's no radio, no nothing. You have to get the phone, and you have to do something else. And someone's coming with a part or something.
Okay,
any excuse in the movie for more isolation.
Yes.
But yeah. So the thing with yours is they're like, the police are like, hey, you got to come back.
Yes, to Paul Onions.
Yeah. It's like, we got this suspect who might have killed all these people, and you told us about all this stuff. They ignore it for years, and then.
Yeah. So what had happened is Paul Onions saw the reports in the British papers when he's back in England about the backpacker murders that are going on. Now, in the real backpacker murders, there wasn't a mining camp. So that's like another difference between the movie and real life. So there was no mining camp in the movie. He was just using the Belanglo. I want to say it's called Belanglo. Belanglo.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Belanglo.
Fellatio.
Fellatio State Park. All right, I think it's Belanglo.
Sounds like a good state park.
Belanglo. I'm going to go with Belanglo State Park. He was using Belanglo State Park as his dumping ground, or they were, because again, there is a possibility there was more than one killer. Now, Paul Onion saw the report about the backpacker murders that was going on in that area, and he was like, "Oh, that's where I had." So he got on the phone and called the tip line and said, "Look, yeah, I was there." Now there was thousands and thousands and thousands of people that were phoning these tip lines. Paul Onions was just one of many. And because he was all the way in England, they again just kind of like, okay, thank you. And, got buried, right? And I think it took like 6 months before they got to it, where they're, going through all their different tips they've been receiving, and they finally get to his, like 6 months later. And they, like you said, they called him back, like, hey, you were down in Australia and you had an encounter that you believe it fits our situation here with the backpack killers. We need you to come down and stuff like that. He's like, that was like half a year ago I called. Like, well, what's the hold on now? So he went down there now because Paul Onions wanted to see this guy brought to justice, okay? Because he is a terror. Ivan Milat is a terror. He went back to Australia. He described the way Ivan Milat looked, the vehicle that he was driving, and all that stuff. With that information, the police were already looking at the Milat family, the 14 siblings, if you will, of the Milat family. They're already looking at, because they were a local family who had a bad reputation, is the best way to put it, without going into detail. But if you go online and you look at the Milat family and look at the different biographies of each one, the criminal breakdown, there is so much crime. Now, not all of them, but most of them have something ranging from just innocent, I'm just saying, just stuff that didn't hurt anybody, but it was a crime nonetheless, up to assault, possible rape charges. Ivan Milat in the 70s had 2 rape charges against him, and he managed to get those charges dismissed with his lawyer, with the help of his lawyer. It's the same lawyer he was going to get later in life to defend himself against these murder charges. That Paul Onions was able to identify Ivan Milat once the police showed him the photographs of the Milat clan. This guy, is this familiar? Is that guy right there, right? When the police searched the properties of the Milat brothers, they found camping gear from the victims, most notably at his brother Richard's and Bill, I believe. Now, Richard and Bill and Bill's wife, Carol, three very interesting people involving Ivan Milat. So Carol used to be Ivan Milat's girlfriend. She wound up marrying Ivan's brother, Bill. Okay. They would go on to defend the good name of their brother, Ivan, and they would go on TV as a team. And Bill, Carol, and Richard would proclaim that we, as a family, have been framed by the Australian police because they're looking to solve these murders and they can't solve them. Mm-hmm. So what they did was they went and got a bunch of the belongings of the victims and they planted them all over our property. And then they came with a search warrant and said, hey, look, we found all this stuff all over your property. Now, it has been alleged by Ivan Milat's lawyer that Richard and Bill were actually the ones who were the murderers. Mm-hmm. Now, the way I read it is this. Ivan Milat, I think, is guilty as hell. Mm-hmm. Okay, he was definitely out there murdering people. The reason that they even came up with this idea for two killers is because the victims, sometimes there'd be like a pair of victims, for example. Yeah. Right? One of the victims would have an up-close personal kill, and the other victim would have a distance kill. The up-close personal kill was the ones with the knives going into the vertebrae that are going to paralyze them. Mm. And then there would be multiple stab wounds, decapitations in some cases, sexual assault. All right?
Sounds pretty gruesome.
Yes, it's horrific. Oh, then yeah. There would be the distance killing. So the second person, in some of these cases, would, say, be tied to a tree and be used as target practice, shot in the head multiple times until their head was destroyed. And the police were able to determine the target practice based upon the groupings of the shots and the damage to the body. They could see exactly what was going on because police regularly shoot paper targets and they know what it looks like. When they eventually arrested Ivan Milat, they just said that, okay, so he used this one guy for target practice and then over here he did the up-close and personal kill. His lawyer, when he was in court, pointed a finger at Richard and Bill. And I have to wonder, was it Ivan who said to his lawyer, you might want to look at Richard and Bill, if you know what I mean? And maybe the whole thing was, yes, there were more than one killer, and it was Richard, it was Bill, it was Ivan. Now, it's never been proven, but I just wanted to point that out because if you watch the videos of the interviews where you have Richard, Bill, and Carol being interviewed by the media, and they're asking them, like, you know, are you involved? Do you know who else is involved? And all this stuff like that. They're just like, nope, we're not involved at all. And neither is Ivan. It's all a bunch of peck of lies. Right? Mm. So going back to the Wolf Creek thing, the Wolf Creek franchise, when they did when they did the portrayal of the victims, I did notice that some of it did kind of dovetail into the real life victims without using their names and just by changing up some of the situations. So the one girl who was a protagonist in the first one, was she, I can't remember off the top of my head, but what nationality was she in the first movie? Do you remember?
They're British.
They're British.
I think both girls are the British.
Yes.
British,
and
and the male is from Perth or.
Yes. The man was an Australian. So
from a city.
So in the first movie, you have the English girl who were following around. In the second movie, you have the English man. Now, what I did notice about part two was the character that we're following in part two. the English man, who unfortunately right now I just can't remember the kid's name in the movie, but I think that he was supposed to be loosely based upon Paul Onions, right? And the reason I say that is because at the end of part 2,
well, he just becomes like the hero basically, because he just run around killing until he like runs across him, and this is like the last person that he ran into, and basically pushes the storyline to the end of the movie.
All right. Well, what I was getting at was that the loosely based on Paul Onions thing was that when we're introduced to this character, and he eventually gets caught by Mick Taylor, and he has him strapped to this chair, and he's like, we're going to play a little drinking game, and it's like a trivia, 10 questions, and if you get a question wrong, you lose a finger. I'm going to take the angle grinder and grind it off.
I was going to say, he doesn't just like grind it, like cut it like with a grinder. He grinds it off.
Yes.
Like he does it, like if your thumb, he starts at the top and grinds it down.
Yes.
It's not like a quick bam, we cut through the bone, it's over.
Correct.
Yes. So let's make sure there's this torture of Mick Taylor.
Yeah, it's just not a quick severing of the finger.
Graphic,
it's literally So if he gets enough right, then he's like, oh, now I'll let you go free or whatever. The reason I think he's based on Paul Onions, one, he's British. Two, when he's doing the question, it comes out that he had spent time in the British Navy, which in real life Paul Onions did. And then three, by the end of the movie, he is dumped off by Mick Taylor out in the city somewhere to be discovered by police officers, right? Now, that didn't happen to Paul Onions, but he did escape. So both the characters did escape to tell their tale, right? So I think
that's where the movie ends.
And that's where part 2 ends, correct?
It just says something like he was subject to a hospital or a mental hospital for a certain amount of time, or you're still there or something.
Paul Onions, however, was not. Paul Onions did not wind up in a mental institution.
It's just a post thing for them from the movie.
It's
like
correct.
Some script from the end.
Correct. Then you had another case, which is the other killer, Bradley John Murdoch.
As you were telling me about this person might be innocent, right?
So, I mean, it's very, very tricky because you have the victim's father. The victim in this Bradley John Murdoch, there's actually 2 victims. It was a British couple. Bradley John Murdoch, he was another killer, and there was an Englishman named Peter Falconio. Okay? In 2001, he was with his fiance, Joanne Lees, and they're doing the Australian trip thing. Okay? Going out, having a great time, visiting a beautiful country and having, seeing all the sights like everybody else does. And they encountered Bradley John Murdoch one night when they're driving their rental down a dark highway, on a highway that is actually advised that you don't drive down late at night because it's not safe, because there is a chance that, one, if you have any accidents, just a natural thing like your tire blowout, right?
You're stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Or your engine, stuck in the middle of nowhere, and you are at the whims of the desert, right? And the wildlife there, and the lack of water, stuff like that. The other problem is that it's one of the highways that people are known to go driving down drunk. On this one night in 2001, they're driving their rental car. They had left this bar cafe, and they continued down this highway, this stretch of highway, late at night. And then a vehicle came up behind them and started flashing its high beams. And they're like, what the hell does this guy want, Finally, Peter Falconio pulls the vehicle over to see what's up with this guy, all right? He goes and talks to the dude. He comes back over and tells his girl, Joanne, he says, listen, the guy said there was sparks coming out of our muffler, and that's why he flagged us down. So why don't you go ahead and give the engine some revs here. I'm going to go back and see if I can see these sparks. So he goes back, grabs his cigarettes, and goes back where Bradley John Murdoch is, and he says, all right, go ahead and step on the gas. And he lights the cigarette up, and then pop, Joanne says she heard a shot, but she thought it was just the vehicle backfiring. She said the vehicle has backfired previously, and that's what she thought it was this time. Turns out her boyfriend had just been murdered because Bradley John Murdoch pops around with a pistol in his hand, shoves it in Joanne's face, jumps in the vehicle, tells her to move over, get out of the driver's seat, and then he binds her hands. Right? He then places her into the back of his vehicle. He then goes and takes their vehicle to go move it off the road, to go take it down the roadways and then drive it off and hide it. She uses this opportunity to escape his vehicle and run into the outback. He comes back. She's not there. He immediately starts looking for her.
Mm-hmm.
He can't find her.
Yes.
She winds up hiding out there, she says, for hours. After she sees the headlights of his vehicle leave, she stays out there for a couple more hours just to be safe. Then finally, she flags down passing motorists, explains the situation, and then what happens later on is that they go on to arrest Bradley John Murdoch for an alleged murder and the kidnapping and whatever else charges you want to throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is the way that the media responded. Are you familiar with
what happened? No, I'm not
happened?
familiar with that. I was more familiar with the other one.
So this right here is interesting because the British papers at the time, they had already been duped by another woman who claimed that her husband had been murdered and she was also a victim. And they were following her around, listening to her story, and then it turned out that she had actually murdered her own husband. So this time, the media was extremely critical of Joanne Lees' story. And because of that, Joanne Lees was not very open, and she was not very warm, and she was not very engaging with the media. She was very hostile with the media. And she came off cold. And then she was represented in the media as somebody who was acting very suspicious for somebody whose fiance just got murdered, and then she just escaped an attempted rape and murder herself or whatever. So she was being labeled as a potential liar and a potential murderer, and that's potentially she just made up this whole story and sent an innocent man to prison or whatever.
Sounds like some Australian stuff where they don't listen to the ladies a lot.
It does.
When a dingo ate the baby,
Yes.
And it turned out that the dingo really did eat the baby.
Correct.
That they didn't listen to the woman then either.
That is correct, right? So she may not have gotten a fair shake if it turns out that all this stuff that she said was true and Bradley John Murdoch actually was guilty of this crime. Then she definitely did not get a fair shake. However, here the interesting thing is they've never found the body.
I'll tell you, it's the Outback, dude. There's just little tiny police stations.
Yes.
No one knows what's going on out there.
No.
You're too far away from everything. And you're just like being stuck in the middle of the desert. If you're stuck in the middle of the desert, someone wants to try to kill you. What kind of options you got? Not many.
There's not many options, no, and I guess you need to be a survival expert in order to survive.
I think like with the smallest police force and like rotting stuff and evidence disappearing in the desert, how much is they're saying all this. Like I'm just saying like they didn't believe the lady then, but they probably don't get much evidence at all, and they don't have a police force to dealing with all that.
Well, they do have Goose and Max. Oh, it's not Goose. I don't know what there was up there, but it wasn't Goose. No way.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mad Max. After Goose? Yeah, remember his partner, Goose?
Oh.
His Goose got burnt up by the bad guys. The bird guys, he's like, what was it, Toe Cutter? Toe Cutter was like with his little minion, and Toe Cutter just got done pouring gasoline over top of the upside down squad car where Goose was still strapped in.
Yeah, I got you.
And Goose was all like, "Oh, no, mate,
all the way
no, don't do it, mate, don't do it."
Yeah, I don't know you're going all the way back. Where?
Oh yeah. That's the police. That's the official police force of New South Wales is Max and Goose. And their Gimp police captain, who's like always wearing no shirt, but he's got like the leather pants on, and he's got the little like bull rider whip, and he's like, "Oi, Max, get over here. Let me whip you the butt there, Max. All right, get out there and bring me some arrest.
Drive your MFP car."
Okay, so, Bradley John Murdoch. So the weird thing was, after this case got wrapped up, a body was never found. So the police took Joanne back to where the crime allegedly happened, and they did find blood, okay, but not pools of it. Now that could be explained away by the fact that they said that it seeps into the soil, the rains that came in kind of washed away, whatever, all that nonsense. But they never found a body. Now, if Bradley John Murdoch was the perpetrator of his disappearance, okay, it is possible that he moved the body, right? He went looking for her. He couldn't find her. Maybe he picked up the body and he took it to another location and dumped the body. Possibility. There is a conspiracy theory, which I do not subscribe to. I believe that Peter Falconio is dead. He was murdered. There's a conspiracy theory that Peter Falconio just wanted to start his life over again. And so he paid Bradley John Murdoch to stage this whole thing so he'd trick his fiance into thinking that he was dead. And then now he can start his life anew. That is the stupidest conspiracy theory I heard, but it is out there. And there are people who believe it.
Seems like a lot to do instead of just dumping your girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
It's going to be a lot more headaches than just saying, like, how about you don't call me no more and I don't like you.
Yes. So now that was the other inspiration for the Wolf Creek series.